Hello there. Welcome back to F1 Manager and well, our initial speedrun. We are still hunting that World Championship with a female driver, and we are currently around the halfway point of the season. We're about to head into Belgium, which honestly should be fairly decent. Contreras is still leading by 60 points. Verstappen and Norris kind of fighting each other here, benefiting us. I'm a little bit further behind the field here, but honestly, currently things are still looking good. And as I said here, Sano is potentially a better driver, but for now we'll just have her as kind of a development role in case we don't manage to pull off the championship this season. So we're going to continue where we left off. We're about to head into Belgium. We do have a fairly good situation going. We are currently going full into research, which I think is the correct bet because it is the season after we had some massive regulation changes. We could use CFD and wind tunnel time, of course, to, deal with some of the issues. But regulation changes here are still pretty hard hitting. So it's a bit of a weird one because if we don't research, we're going to be losing a lot of the stats that we've gained. So it's a bit of a bit of damned if you don't situation. If we succeed during this season, great. If we don't, we're just going to make it harder for us the next season. So we're probably going to do research from this point forwards, but as you might expect, it's not completely certain. Now, secondary, keep in mind that I'm recording this during New Year's Eve. Happy New Year to anyone who has seen this after the turn of the year. Hope you still enjoy. Merry New Year, Happy New Year. But so you might hear fireworks going off. They've been going off basically all day, even though we do have laws in place that kind of limit when you can send up fireworks. There has been random firework booms happening every now and again. So if you hear some weird rumbling, some weird booms in the background, that is just the fireworks. But we're going to get back into this one. We're about to head to Belgium. And Belgium is hopefully one of the places where we will do fairly well because of the fact that Belgium does have the benefit of being a low deck track, so we can run a very aggressive strategy. And that should hopefully benefit us. So for now, let's jump into Belgium. Let's see what we can do. Potentially we'll have a rainy sprint here, but I more expect that we're going to have a rainy practice. But we'll do our best here to pull a good result. We are ready for the sprint, and in the usual fashion, we're going to go ahead here and use a medium tire. Unfortunately, Neumann didn't get the best confidence going into this, which is slightly worrisome because errors can happen. Let's just put it like that. Hopefully we can avoid such errors. Confidence is also fairly low here for Contreras, but we are starting first and third with the Red Bull second and fourth, so that should make things a little bit spicy here. We're going with medium tires rather than soft tires, even though the softs are viable. Mediums should be quicker overall. So that is why we have elected to do that. We still have some medium tires available to us. In particular, Contreras has potentially 3 sets of mediums that she can run. And for Nyman, it's just going to be 1 extra set. But we have softs, we have hards. So I think it's still fine to just run it like this. So we're just going to jump in the sprint here. See if we can have a decent start because everyone else is going to be on soft tires. So yeah, let's see if we can take advantage of the Red Bulls here and take the lead immediately. Although that might be a little bit dangerous, and with Nyman behind already, at least she won't take out our teammate, but she is falling down to potential 4th there. Contreras kept 1st place, which is pretty good. And honestly, the only thing that we really want to try and avoid here is, of course, Nyman on medium confidence, not crashing, kind of like Contreras did there. All the way to the back of the order, of course. So yeah, luckily enough, honestly, I'm happier that Contreras did it rather than Nyman. Although Contreras is kind of leading the championship, it's early. We still have some chances to make our way back. I do think that we're gonna have to run aggressive though for quite a while, or even normal would probably be a good bet because we did lose about 12% of tire, and this is probably not 12%. They also do suffer from higher deg, our drivers, so we'll see how this goes. But Contreras already making her way back, getting a little bit of that confidence back up and running. We're gonna need that quick so that we can avoid crashing, and Neumann here now running in 3rd. So yeah, a bit of a spicy start here. We'll see if we can keep things going without crashing into the second to final turn. That is a common occurrence around here. So let's see how this goes. Hopefully we can recover. I thought for a second there was Nyman out, but it was Lawson. And Contreras gets another overtake done for free. But as you might expect here, we're going to have to probably micromanage her a little bit in order to get the kind of result we want here. So I'll be working on that. Let's see if we can get her back up into the points. Going to be fairly difficult though, I think.
Now this happens
So
turn 8.
Contreras has made her way back up, but yeah, she had another spin. She's still in 14th, but that probably stopped any chance that we had here of you know, making more places. We now have no time left. 3 laps to go. So yeah, that one's going to be a little bit rough. We might even lose another few positions. Nyman has also slightly higher deck than expected, but should be fine. She's currently running in 3rd. Can't really catch the Red Bulls. So yeah, the sprint has not gone to plan. But Contreras has gotten overtakes done, so it does hint towards the fact that we can play things a bit more aggressively, get overtakes done, and then recover. Probably going to put her on a soft tire at the start of the next race. I don't think we have any other choice really. And I don't think Nyman here is going to be able to make anything happen. And Contreras said the goal is just kind of to keep Albon behind. So let's see if we can pull that off. But yeah, definitely a bit unfortunate that we did have that little bit of an incident. And Nyman here actually is catching up to Norris. But I don't think she's going to get the overtake done. So Red Bulls are going to get a few points back at us. That is honestly fine. I was focused probably a little bit too much on Contreras here, trying to get her back into the saddle because she is our title contender. But as you could expect here, didn't really manage to make that comeback happen after having a lockup on lap 1 and then a spin a few laps later. Norris is going to have a penalty for the race though. That's going to put Nyman up 2nd. Depending on the penalty, could also potentially give Contreras here a little bit of a boost for the race itself. But it should keep things fairly interesting here, that we had those 2 incidents. Can only be happy that we didn't, you know, suffer too much damage. Now, for Nyman, I think the best plan here is just to start her on the mediums, run them full attack, and honestly, might do something like running 2 soft stints aggressive. That should be fairly decent. And even though 1 stopper here is also potentially very much on the table, something like this, I think we're going to run the 2 stopper here. It just allows for more flexibility in the event that we have an incident, and if we need to, we can run one of these soft ties on, you know, light to make up for it. So that should be okay. That's going to be the plan for Nyman, who's just going to try and get herself a win or a podium here, starting in 2nd, kind of stay with the Red Bull if possible. Now, for Contreras, we're going to have a little bit of a different problem in the sense that we might try something like this, which is extremely aggressive and also prone to backfiring, if you consider the fact that, well, she has already had a couple of spins this weekend. Well, not really a couple of spins, a couple of incidents, but it is definitely potentially viable. So we're going to give this a go. Is it going to work out? Don't know, but I think it's the best bet that we have on the table right now. Softs will allow for early overtakes, potentially building up that confidence, you know, minimizing the risks, and kind of that's the same that we're going to be hoping here for Nyman. But let's jump into the Belgian GP here, the race itself, and see if we can recover from that terrible sprint. After a uneventful start here, Contreras has made her way up to 8th place currently, so she's doing a very good job. Schumacher ahead currently, and probably going to get him now with the help of the DRS. Gets that move done. We are going to be pitting at the end of this lap though, and as you can see, we do have higher DEG than anticipated, and that is honestly not that surprising. It is Contreras, and the solution is probably just to run one of these medium tires on potentially light, or even kind of switch up the strategy a little bit, because as you can see, depending on how we move these, we are going to end up losing a little bit of time. What we could do is take one of these and turn into a soft standard even, and that might actually be a tad quicker. So 8 seconds slower. It is kind of what we anticipated, honestly. But it does give us a little bit of leeway when we have problems like this. But what I am thinking we're going to do here is we're going to put her on the medium. We're going to run it on full attack. And we're going to see if the degradation is more like Nyman's here. Because if it is, we'll just run the tire a little bit into the negative zone. And if it isn't, we might be in trouble. But for now, it's actually pretty much okay. So we are going to do, as anticipated here, put her on the medium tire. And that should be good enough to get the job done. Now, Nyman is doing well here as well, following Verstappen. Verstappen started on a soft tire, so he did have a little bit of a tire advantage. And Contreras here should be coming out probably close to the end here, or pretty close to last place. 17th, which isn't too bad. And Nyman has had a lockup that luckily didn't actually result in any damage. And just caused us to lose the gap that we had to the car in front. What exactly happened here?
And the car just locks, just unable to control the...
At least she kept on going, so we didn't really lose that much time. We lost probably around 6 seconds. We'll have a look at once we get to the pit window here. But this, of course, also does kind of cause problems with the strategy, where we are going to probably need to run it on standard rather than anything else. And with Contreras as well, we're going to have to try and get overtaking done again. We have P confidence. Nyman is not having any such luck because, well, we kind of don't have the opportunity to do that. Let's put it like that. Now, what I am thinking we're going to do is pit her fairly soon, and we might just do something like this to play it a little bit safer. Then we can go more aggressive towards the end of the stint. It's going to be slower overall. Honestly, that's not surprising. But as I said, we can gain some of that time back by running attack towards the end of the stint. And I think that is for the best, really. So I think the play here now for Nyman, if we want to have any chance of getting something done, is probably going to be pitting her fairly soon. She is at 38%. So we're just going to pit her. We're going to put her into traffic. That is actually the sole purpose of this. We're going to put her in traffic. And by forcing her into traffic, we can hopefully, before she crashes, regain some of the confidence that she needs. Because that is really the fact here. The female drivers here, because of their low control stats, well, the low control stat of our drivers. I'm not saying as a general trend. But basically, because they have lower control stats, we kind of need the P confidence that lowers the chance of incidents to be on the safe side. But yeah, just want to make sure that, you know, politically correct here, so I don't get butchered. Contreras gets another move done. I'm curious where exactly Nyman is going to be coming out. 2-second pit stop. Again, I know a lot of people comment on last video, why are my pit stops so quick? It's because this save is ancient. It was from before we had the pit stop changes. So at the start of this season, we already basically had max pit stops. Then the pit stop changes came. And as a result, we have incredibly quick pit stops. So that is why there is nothing secret or anything like that. It's just the pit stop, the system for the pit stops did change. And we benefited from that because we, well, played this save before that change took effect. Now, Nyman has got an overtake. She has been brought into high confidence. We're, of course, going to keep on trying to move both cars forwards. But so far, this is looking fairly promising. Let's see if we can keep this going. So the first team to make a pit stop is Gasly here with Alpine. We have done a good job. Contreras is up into 7th. Nyman is up into 4th. I don't think we're catching Verstappen, though. That is the thing. Nyman might have a small chance. We're actually still running her on full attack. Okay. That's bad. Honestly, it's fine, though. Yeah, I didn't actually realize this. I thought I tuned her down. But since she's already at 50%, it's basically too late to turn her down. And honestly, this is kind of fine because everyone else hasn't pitted yet. So she's going to be pitting with them, most likely. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing. But at the same time, it's not great either, is the best way I can describe our current predicament. Because Nyman doesn't have any more medium tires, I believe. Nope, so it's either a hard or running a soft in a light configuration. And that is a problem in its own right. So let us see what we can come up with here to kind of fix this. We could do this. Running light would save us a few seconds. I think this is going to be what we have to do. Just run the soft tires on standard. It is either that or we do the brave move here of... Wait, does she not have enough soft tires? Excuse me. Just want to make sure this vanishes to be on the safe side. Has 2 sets of soft tires, so we can do something with 2 soft tires. That was just the game fooling me. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's refusing to show 2 sets of soft tires, so we'll just do this. There we go. So, if we pit onto another soft and do something like this, how would that match up versus what we're currently doing? It's about 7 seconds quicker. This probably isn't the most horrible idea I've ever had, but it also isn't the greatest idea I've ever had to do a bunch of attacking stops, basically. But I think we might just need to do that. Verstappen finally pits. We are going to come out ahead. But yeah, Verstappen winning this race is probably already a bit of a foregone conclusion, in my honest opinion. But we'll have to see what we can do to kind of recover. Norris pits, De Vries pits, Magnussen pits. We are going to run these tires into the ground, and then we'll figure out what we do. But I think this is the best bet for Nyman. And we'll just have to see what we can do with Contreras, because she too does have a little bit of a tire issue here that we kind of do need to deal with. Hard tire on full attack is viable. Probably not going to degrade too much. If we go for a medium, we are probably going to have to run it either standard or aggressive can also work. Let's keep it as standard for now. That's about 7 seconds slower. If you run it on, if we run it on aggressive, how would that look? Again, the thing here is we don't really have much of leeway, so if we're going to do this, we'll probably be better off going for a hard. And the final option is, of course, to do the same that we're doing with... I don't understand why they are refusing to show the amount of soft tires that we actually have. Because we do have fresh soft tires, that's the thing. But if we do even something like that, just to have a look, yeah. The hard tire is probably going to be the best bet. And if things go wrong, we can pit for a soft tire. But that is also a bit of a gamble. I'm a little bit unsure what is the best bet here, if you will. But for the time being, we'll just stretch these mediums to get a little bit more out of the potential hards for Nyman. Kind of the same thing here, although we should probably get her in on this lap. We are going to go with the very aggressive strategy of 2-stopping her. For Contreras, we're just going to play it a little bit safe here with the hard tire. I think that's going to be the key. And for Nyman, she should come out around Norris, so that should be fine. We also have had an incident.
Here we've got a yellow flag.
Is this going to be a virtual safety car incident? Probably not. Just a slight touch between the boys there, kind of what you expect. So that's not going to result in anything, really. But we are going to be pitting Nyman, and Contreras we are going to be pitting on this following lap. We're just going to put her on the hard tire. It is a bit of a gamble, I will admit, but it's a gamble I'm willing to take. And Nyman actually kept her position because the other cars here did end up pitting as well. So they're probably going to end up staying on those tires till the end. So for Nyman, the key now is going to be to use these soft tires to create a gap to every car behind, which we've already kind of done. And we're also going to have to push these tires as much as we can to, you know, take advantage. So we do have a little bit of a challenge ahead of us. Should get interesting though. Contreras comes out in 6th after her pit stop, final one. So I still think that we have a good chance there for 2 cars on the podium. But I'm pretty sure Verstappen is going to take the victory here. Let's see how it looks in a few more laps. So we currently have a safety car. And the best bet here is probably going to be to pit both cars. Because I assume almost everyone is going to pit. And it is not a lot of laps remaining. Let's be honest here, 12 laps. Nyman, if she pits, if we take into account that it is a safety car, 8 seconds. We should be able to pit Nyman here without really losing anything. And we're going to have to pit her anyway, so that is a no-brainer. I'm just very happy that we caught it before we go close to the pit lane. So we're going to get her in, of course, put her onto a fresh set of soft tires. And for Contreras here, I think the best bet that we can do is actually do the same thing. Get her in, put her on a fresh set of soft tires. And honestly, that is the best thing that we can do for both cars here. Contreras might lose some positions, but I'm pretty sure she's going to be able to get those back. If these cars stay out, they're going to be down to 50%, 60%, well, maybe not 60, 65-ish. And those soft tires are just going to eat them up on the safety car restart. So we're going to go ahead here and get both cars in. And we'll see now. Does Leclerc pit? He does. I would assume Ocon is going to pit too. Yes, everyone is basically going to be pitting. So this is actually a good time to have a look at pit stop traffic. And currently, it looks like we are not going to have any sort of pit stop traffic because we had flawless pit stops. Contreras in 6th. Norris actually stayed out. And same did Russell. But Contreras did beat Norris. So 5th place, fresh tires. Leclerc did pit. So we had a decent showing here. Did kind of miss here what actually happened to cause the safety car. But Piastri is out. So I assume he crashed probably in turn 1. Would be my guess. I believe that is the last place we did see him. But this does make things a little bit interesting. Verstappen has not pitted. He does have time now, really, to pit if he wants to. So it's a bit weird that he isn't. But at the same time, this could make things really, really interesting for the last few laps of the race. And the yellow here that we're seeing is the engine down to 50% or below 50%. But this is going to make for a pretty fireworks restart, I'd argue. And you are fine with setting these things to push and everything. It's perfectly okay to do so. If we compare to, say, Behrman, Albon, everyone else here, the degradation is slightly higher for us because we don't have smoothness. And as you can see, 68%. That was a little bit off, 63 to 65 for the most part. But the only ones who stayed out were the Red Bulls and who was the other one? Gasly. Magnussen too. That's going to make things somewhat interesting here. Nyman in 2nd, Contreras in 5th. 10 laps. Should be able to run full attack in, no problem, unless we have, of course, incidents. Peak confidence for one driver, very high for the other. And that should mean we have a pretty good chance here of getting something done. Restart is a go. Probably not the best camera angle. I know some people actually felt sick when I was live streaming from that camera angle, so probably not the best way to show it. But we had a good restart here. No one really got left behind. Nyman is following the Red Bull pretty closely here. And I believe we are getting confidence boost here because we are setting personal best Q1 sector 1 times, and we'll be probably setting some other personal best sector times as well that will help. And honestly, as soon as we have DRS, I can imagine both drivers kind of flying past everyone else. Now, Belgium is also interesting because you don't really have to worry too much about your energy usage. Your energy will recover quite aggressively here because there's very many, because there's a lot of corners that kind of do require you to brake pretty harshly, and that helps regenerate that energy. So you can run more aggressive ERS usage here than really anywhere else on the calendar. And that is going to help us with the overtakes now. If Contreras can get Russell, she should be able to catch up to Leclerc and get him too. But needs to get that move done rapidly, I would argue. I'm not really taking full advantage of energy right now, but Red Bull Verstappen is holding off. Contreras gets the move done. Gonna tune it down a little bit. But yeah, we should have tires now that will allow us to keep on going till the end of the race. And that is going to be the big idea here. Contreras is already closing down Leclerc pretty rapidly here, I'd argue. And if Nyman can get past, that is basically it done, I think. And we still have plenty of energy left to get that done. But Contreras here too, I am thinking of just deploying for now. That'll allow it to really close down. But we might need to just sit back with Nyman for a lap or so after this one, so she can recharge her battery, cool down the tires a little bit, and then launch maybe another attack. So there is some things that we do need to keep in mind, but Contreras here launches an attack, gets it done. Nyman just settles in behind here. Honestly, I think if she just went a little bit aggressive, or even if we just gave her the order to kind of overtake and clean air, she'd actually get it done. So that is That is a little bit interesting, honestly. So far, it is looking good. Even though we are doing a little bit of recharging. Ocon running wild. I was about to say running wide. That is proper English. 3 laps to go. We're still looking good here. I think we're going to go ahead and recharge Contreras a little bit. She is within DRS range. And we're going to allow Nyman another chance of attacking here. I am kind of tempted to turn up the risk, but at the same time, every time with these two, when we turned up the risk-taking, they have just sent it into a wall. Or, in this case, most likely the Red Bull ahead is going to end up being the victim, which isn't a terrible thing. Which is a terrible thing to say. But as I was saying here, Nyman just doesn't seem to be getting the overtake done. So we're going to try something a little bit cheeky here. We're going to tell her to drive in clean air. And see if that is enough to force her to drive kind of wide from the Red Bull. In a position where she, will have an overtaking line. A more natural overtaking line, if you will. And it does seem like that might happen here the second we get DRS. Because she is stepping out. Or pulling out aside. But yeah, just lacking a little bit of extra speed to get the Red Bull, honestly. Maybe now. Nope. It's just a little bit too much follow-y here, is what I'm kind of feeling. What we are going to do now is actually allow Oscar to not fight a teammate. Just allow a teammate by. And she'll probably let the teammate by at a good spot. That's probably not the best spot. But we do need to kind of give Contreras a chance here now to attack. Nyman has had plenty of chances, couldn't get the work done. Contreras has a better engine, among other things, so she is probably a little bit better suited to this. So we'll give her a go now on what is going to be the final lap of the race. That safety car did kind of save us, though, I'll be honest. Let's see now if Contreras can make something happen, or if she too is going to be a little bit stuck. And because we have peak confidence here, we are going to take a little bit of a risk. Just for this one corner. And it looks like the straight line speed for the Red Bull is just a little bit too high for us, honestly. That is the impression that I'm getting. And you can kind of see that it's the same that we saw with Nyman, where just doesn't really have what it takes to get the overtake done. Which is unfortunate, but this is still a really, really good recovery drive. Oh, is this the move? Nope. Overtake did indeed fail, and with that, we do finish the race here. Second and third. And with Norris down in 5th, we do catch up, I believe, a little bit. But once we take the sprint into account, I'm pretty sure that we end up with basically around the same or even negative points compared to Red Bull. But if we consider the again, just a recovery drive here, I think we kind of have to be happy with how this race turned out. Leclerc and Schumacher scoring points for Alpha in 6th is kind of impressive too. So Schumacher doing well, and Beerman in the points. Bit of a wild one, but yeah. Contreras loses a bunch of points to Verstappen, which isn't that surprising. Nyman gains a bunch of points on Norris though, and even overtakes Russell in the championship. And if we have a look at the constructors here, Red Bull did extend because of the sprint result, so that sucks. But this was still a decent showing, particularly considering that we did have those incidents that really didn't help us. That is the best way I can describe those incidents. They did not help us at all. So we're gonna have to just live with that and deal with it. There's no other way around it. But yeah, it is what it is. Board review. We're below target. The board is getting annoyed with me. Maybe. We'll see. Front wing, side pod, and suspension has taken damage. We'll just go ahead and replace them. Pretty simple and straightforward. Do probably need to make some more suspensions though. They do take time to manufacture. And the front wings here as well. Probably should just go ahead and make 2 more while we can. We do have some pretty open, I guess I could say, manufacturing slots right now, due to the fact that we don't have a lot of projects going. As I say that, you can see that manufacturing is actually full. But even so, that's fine. A little bit of research here for the chassis, top speed, cooling, the airflow. We definitely need to get the airflow up and running again before next season. So there is some concerns that I have, but airflow sensitivity is not something that we would be worried about. So the underfloor and the rear wing aren't going to be suffering too much. But like front wing here, we are going to probably put in a safety period. We kind of don't really have a choice. So we still have a lot of work to do here to kind of get back what we are losing, if you will. We'll just start another chassis research to kind of make up for that. Next up, we do have Netherlands in 20 plus days because we do have now a bit of a break, if you will. Let's have a look at the Riva. Braking and reactions, Baker and no-go. Honestly, we have a couple of other scoutings in progress here. Lower in Drignat. And cornering is low, but high reactions, high braking. Low overtaking, high defending. Low smoothness. Probably not the best option there, honestly. And who was our final scoutee? Leah Taylor. Let us have a look here. Not too shabby. Low defending, low adaptability. But decent stats everywhere else. So, wouldn't be a terrible choice, honestly. But we are kind of limited with the amount of drives that we can have. And honestly, I do think Sano here is probably going to be one of our better options with almost 70 smoothness, almost 70 braking. So we are going to have to try our best to develop her into world-class driver. Although I am kind of scared at running pace long runs because she's probably just going to level up in adaptability like most of our drivers do. But at this point, nothing we really can do about it. Rear wing has been manufactured. Let's see here if we can manufacture those side pods. Well, the one side pod, if you will. That should be fine. Now, we do have a couple of other concerns with Contreras in particular, and that is her car. Because she has some crashes early in the season, we only have this one engine. So we're definitely going to have to buy another engine, some ERSs at one point for probably both drivers. And that's going to be fairly expensive. So we'll have to consider that as well. For now, though, we're just going to speed along here until we get to the Dutch Grand Prix. And hopefully there, we can have a fairly good result. Wheatley here, 5 months left of his contract. 100 processes, 100 training, aptitude. We might end up just nabbing him, I think, if he's interested. To kind of improve our pit crew a little bit. Now, this guy isn't really, you know, bad or anything. But we'd like to probably exchange him for someone a little bit better. In this case, Wheatley has max processes, max training, same aptitude, around the same leadership, so it's not a bad switch, which is kind of weird to say. So we might go ahead and pick up Wheatley just to make it a little bit easier for me to understand how pit crews work. So let's go ahead and get that sorted quick. And here we are. I did give him a fairly generous contract because money isn't really any concern of ours anymore. So we're going to go ahead and hire him. It should benefit us to kind of pick him up. He is on the older side at 60 years old at this point. But if you take into consideration, well, his stats, it should help our pit crew a little bit. And that's going to be kind of the big idea here. Now, our pit crew is already fairly much maxed. That is the thing here. They're basically maxed, and again, as I mentioned earlier, the main reason for that is actually due to the fact that the pit crew here is from before the changes to how pit crews worked. So that kind of changed things up a little bit, and is the main reason why we have such a good pit crew. It's not really possible anymore. So don't use this pit crew to compare to your own, because they're not comparable. They were two different systems. And we can also pick up a design center improvement here, get a couple more slots. Let's go ahead and approve the budget for that. which means that we can actually do 2 more researches. And that is actually pretty good. So let's get the research going here. I probably should do a little bit of... Honestly, the thing is with the rear wing, every stat here is kind of good. That's the funny part. So what we could do is, of course, sacrifice some dirty air tolerance to get a little bit more cornering, a little bit more DRS effectiveness, a little bit more top speed. And that is actually what we're going to do. Because, again, I don't value following much. Because once you get a car that is good enough, you can kind of... You're not really relying on dirty air tolerance to get past cars anymore. Your car just has enough top speed where it doesn't matter. And that's kind of what we are building here. A car that is capable of just getting by other cars purely based on its speed rather than its ability to follow. Because it'll catch up and it'll just DRS past first opportunity it gets. That does mean that the car is very susceptible to rainy days though. That will have trouble getting overtakes done in the rain. But that is kind of the sacrifice that we've been willing to make. Suspension research is done here, and looking at the stats, I can very much argue that we use CFD time on this one. I can actually guarantee it, so that is good. And we're actually just going to go ahead and start another research, because there's nothing really stopping us from doing another research right now, because we have 6 slots, so just keep everything running for everything. We do have kind of a lower cost cap remaining though. That is actually a little bit of a concern, because as I said, we're going to need at least 1 more engine, maybe even 2. So the cost cap is becoming a slight concern there, where we might run into trouble. Now, 3 points of accuracy and a point of braking for Contreras is actually very, very good. 3 points of cornering and a point of braking is also really good for Nyman. We can be happy with that. And we did hit the adaptability lottery, but at least we got 3 points of smoothness too for Sano. And smoothness is just as important as your pace stats now, basically. So that is actually really, really good. Can be very happy with that. In terms of pit crew schedule, I'll be setting up quickly, but generally here, it shouldn't be too difficult, I think. So this is a pit crew schedule that we've gone with. Because we have such a high level of training right now, we can basically run a full schedule all the way up until the Dutch Grand Prix and just have 1% on Friday. So yeah, weekly might be, the training stat might be something that I've underestimated, but it definitely helps. Training and processes both maxed out. And I want you to have a quick look at this, because as you can see here, we gain about 500's worth of, not even that, 5,000's worth of pit stop time. Regain, if you will, every time we do training. So it's very hard to keep your pit stop times very, very low. And even though we aren't really losing anything this month, this is not what you would usually see, particularly with a, worse pit crew or sporting director. So this is kind of, again, outside the norm. Don't expect this for your current saves. I am definitely not expecting that for one of my current saves. But it's just something to keep in mind. Let's see if we can get ourselves to the Netherlands and hopefully have a good race. Before we get to the Dutch Grand Prix, we have side pods and underfloor research completed. Both of these are going to be fairly important, I'd argue. 5% engine cooling is a massive gain back. We do need a little bit more airflow middle though. So let's get that. The engine cooling, the airflow middle in particular, is kind of important. So let's get those 2 underway. And we're of course also going to go ahead and research that underfloor. And again here, while it is probably not the best way to do things, I am sacrificing airflow sensitivity for this car because we're not probably going to need it next season. If you are a midfield team, again, I'm just hammering this point in. If you are a midfield team or you are going to be struggling or be stuck in the pack, having some airflow sensitivity is going to help you. But if you are running front of the pack, like Red Bull, like Ferrari, where you are going to be running in free air for the most part, unless you are fighting your rivals, sacrificing that dirty air tolerance in order to have a faster car can definitely be worth it. Just be a little bit careful that you don't overdo it. As long as you're above 40-50%, you should be fine. But for now, we'll head into the Dutch Grand Prix and see if we can have a good race here. A pretty decent performance here from Nyman in qualifying for the Dutch GP. Contreras third. Once again, we have the Red Bulls lined up with us. But we have a bit of a surprise in Behrman and also Pocher. So there is some funky stuff happening. And as you probably heard there, potentially, there was a pretty loud bang. I don't know if the microphone is picking it up or not, but I could definitely hear it and kind of feel it. So again, fireworks are happening. You might hear them, you might not. We'll see. And I think we're gonna do what we usually do with Sandwood, which is a somewhat aggressive strategy here. And I do say somewhat aggressive strategy in the sense that we're gonna try and do a two-stopper. That includes a aggressive medium stint into a full attack hard stint, and then just a relaxed final soft stint. Kind of allows us to adapt if we need to, but as you can see here, running this is kind of the same. Running this is kind of the same. But the idea here is incredibly simply that we are starting pretty far up the grid order. We could push full out, pit early, do something like this. It is viable, don't get me wrong. But that would kind of force us to settle in for a tree stopper, which honestly is fine with the team that we currently have, because we do have a pretty dominant pit crew. So this is actually pretty, honestly, probably the best strategy available to us. It's going to allow us to use 2 stints here. The first 2 stints to build confidence. And honestly, that is probably the best bet for us. It also does allow us to have a little bit of extra tire to go on the soft stints, which means that we can push these harder than anticipated. It's not a problem. So in this case, this actually does work out in our favor with how the pit stops are going to be happening. So we're going to take advantage of that. Lower confidence here for Nyman again. A little bit higher for Contreras. We are allowing Sano to run Nyman's car, basically just in case. Although, in theory, that would be a terrible idea. I am just kind of covering all bases here in case we do have a miserable 10 races coming to us here. Let's jump into the Dutch Grand Prix, see if we can maybe have a good one. Because the main fear that I have is that we are going to crash out horribly at a couple of races this year. So, soft tires, hard tires, some softs, some hards. A pretty decent variety, I guess you could say. Nyman with a bit of a slow start. We have been getting used to that though. Nyman having a bit slower starts, reaction stat is a bit lower. And we're currently settled in behind the Red Bulls here, which honestly is fine. The Red Bulls are running soft tires. Norris is even running older softs. So he's going to end up pitting probably around the same time we do, in all honesty, unless he runs them more carefully, which should allow us to make some pretty simple overtakes. So currently, we are pretty much just happy with the situation. We did survive lap 1. That is step 1, surviving lap 1. And step 2 now is basically just settle in here and kind of try and, of course, get the overtakes done on the Red Bulls, create some stretches in the field so it will be easy to overtake once we pit. And that is kind of going to be the goal now, as we kind of just allow things to run as they are until we get to that first pit stop. We've had our first incident. Nyman has locked up and parked at the side of the road. Now, lost in... truly lost, which of course is not great, but nothing really can do with it. We'll just have to try and deal the best that we can here, so we might switch to a soft tire and save the hards for a little bit later. But as you can expect, we're going to have to be pitting earlier than anticipated, but I think we might just stick to what we are planning. That hard tire will allow us to kind of climb up the order, but we're probably going to have the same problem that we saw in Belgium, where the low confidence here is going to be a bit of a problem, and that is honestly just how you'd expect things to go. Now, interestingly enough, you can see that Contreras suffered higher deg than Nyman, because Nyman did have that massive loss, and even then, Contreras here is struggling to kind of keep up with the degradation. So that ain't too good, but it is just how things are. We're going to be pitting both cars this lap, and for Contreras here now, she's going to come out probably pretty much close to the back of the grid here. So a lot of overtakes are going to need to be done. There are a lot of soft runners though, and that DRS train is not going to be good for business. Let's just put it like that. So Contreras now comes out into a heap of traffic, but in 14th. So not too bad. Nyman too gets hit with a pit stop issue. If you remember, we had about a 2-3% chance of having a pit stop issue, so that is very, very unfortunate. But yeah, this DRS train now is going to create a little bit of mayhem. I know for a fact that Naima was not involved in that crash because she isn't nearby. And it's actually Porsche and the Mercedes run off the track there. Nothing serious there in terms of the crash though, so that is good. But yeah, we're gonna have a bit of a work ahead of us now, trying to get Contreras moved back up and back into position. We have another yellow flag. Start wonder what that was, Lawson. But yeah, we'll be trying to move both cars up here. It's probably going to be a little bit challenging, and honestly, I might be a little bit stubborn here on the strategy on the sandboard. We did something similar, didn't work out last time, and we might end up seeing here that this is not going to be working out this time either. We'll see though. We've had yet another incident. This time it happened right in front of us. You can see there is Contreras. We have Magnussen. Well, Magnussen in the Mercedes, not the Haas. And they just have a slight touch there where the Haas gets, well, sent into the Shadow Realm. Unfortunately, though, we are kind of struggling with getting overtakes done. Nyman isn't driving, well, she's driving quick, let's be honest. But that kind of tells us you just how much time we're losing with Contreras here behind this DRS train. Because Nyman is running almost 2 seconds quicker. So we need to get some move on here, get some overtakes done. We see Norris pit, and he comes out way ahead of us, which isn't too surprising because we've been stuck for a while. That is also a problem because that is threatening our potential results here, but we'll still try and do our best. So while Contreras has made her way up to 5th, ahead of Verstappen who just pitted, Nyman has had a bit of another incident, down into 18th here. So at this point, she's basically completely out of contention, unfortunately. We just aren't getting that confidence back up. Probably should just turn her down in terms of aggression levels. But honestly, if we want her to get back into the points, it's not something that we can really afford with our current strategy. So, could benefit us, of course, to change that strategy, but at the moment, we don't really have any real way to do that. And Contreras had just got overtaken and left in the dirt, I guess is the best way to describe that.
The opportunity's there.
So, like, running 3 wide. And Verstappen just takes advantage of that and slots in. But that was, I'd argue that was lack of bravery from Contreras, honestly. She should have been a little bit more aggressive there, I feel. But that is just how it be sometimes. Racing isn't exactly fair, so just how things are. But yeah, Contreras is probably still going to be on a good charge here to get points, is at least what we're going to be hoping for. We are going to have to put some work into Nyman, but hopefully we can secure a win here, or at least a podium for Contreras, so she's still in the battle with Verstappen. And we've had yet another incident here. Fireworks going off in the background too, you can probably hear that. But we have a red flag at the moment. So that is a little bit problematic because, well, most cars have pitted, so it's not the worst. We actually do save a pit stop doing this, to some degree. So honestly, this red flag probably came at a good time for us. You can argue Behrman there getting sent and just demolished. But there were a few other cars involved. We'll have to see if he's the only casualty. Looks like there were 2 there. Couldn't see who the other one was exactly. But what we are going to do here is incredibly simple. We're going to be running 2 soft stints on standard. It's kind of what we have to do. We don't really have any other choice than to do that. And we'll do that for both cars here. So Behrman is out. He's the only casualty from that crash.
It's time to pick up where we left off as the race restarts.
So we're starting in 3rd and down in 15th. And we can see that there is a hard runner on the Red Bull here. And I'm just forcing it so we can actually get deploy and push on immediately. We are going to be running kind of attack here for the first lap or so, because we kind of have to. But yeah, Nyman down in 14th. We have everyone but a few cars here on hard tires. Verstappen has selected for, sorry, everyone but a few on soft tires. There are used soft tires in the mix too, which should help us out. But as you can expect it, I would think most soft runners are going to have to pit again. That was very loud. Unless, of course, we have an immediate crash with Nyman. Contreras is fine, looks like.
Are you okay?
But what exactly happened here with
There's a
Nyman?
yellow flag.
Looks like she didn't actually lose anything except for a few places.
And you can see how the cars
Guess
come
she
together.
got bullied by the Alfa Romeo, but honestly don't know who's at fault there. But except for a few positions and confidence, I don't think we lost anything in particular. But of course, it's going to be hard to kind of get back into it, for sure. I would think. We're going to tune both cars down to aggressive, and then we're going to tune them down to standard. Because we kind of have to. We're also probably going to be tuning down the energy usage fairly soon here. Like so. But we do need Contreras here to A, get past the Red Bull, and B, create a gap where we don't pull him along, because he is on the hard tires. And if we're planning to pit and get by him, we're going to have to do that without giving him, you know, a free tow. But yeah, Nyman, very, very unfortunate. We'll have to see if we can make any sort of comeback. For now, though, let's see if we can get Contreras back through here on this straight. We can. Probably should have saved up some more energy, though, so we could have extended the gap a little bit more. And I think that's what we're going to do now. I don't think we're going to be catching Norris unless we push extremely hard. So we might as well just settle in for another DRS and try and get it on the main straight maybe instead. With full energy. That would make it a little bit easier. And for Nyman, I kind of expected her to get that move done even with that energy, but looks like she just wasn't capable. There we go, that was a little bit better. But yeah, Contreras is doing well. Again, we're just going to make sure that we recharge fully, and then we're going to try and run away from the Red Bull on hopefully this lap. I would hope. We probably could have saved a little bit more energy if we had wanted to be cheeky. But it looks like we are going to get overtaken. So let's go ahead and harvest for this lap too.
Battery is good.
And we have reached maximum battery. And Nyman actually sets fastest lap here. So there is a chance of getting back into the points, but it's going to be really, really difficult. Confidence is luckily back to very high, so we might have seen the last of Nyman incidents for this race. I can only hope. Let's just put it like that. Now you can kind of see where we're lacking in terms of top speed. So the only real place where we can get the overtake done for Contreras is going to be on this straight right here. Then we're going to have to use the energy to stay ahead on the next. And even here we couldn't get the move done. So we're kind of struggling right now. Kind of struggling a little bit. Of course we can turn up the risk, but that comes with, ironically, its own risks, so we don't really want to. And let's see now if we can get enough of a drag now to catch the Red Bull. There we go, that was a little bit better. But as you can see, we do use a tremendous amount of energy here to kind of try and do these attacks, and that is problematic in its own right. I'm pretty sure the Red Bull is also using energy now to kind of fight back. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that they are kind of keeping up with us to some degree here. Now, we have a second. That's all we really wanted here, that second, because I think we'll be able to keep on extending the gap now. Maybe catch up to Norris, who should have to pit as well, although we are running our tires way more aggressively than Norris is even on standard, and that is worrisome. But this should still be okay for us. Nyman is in another DRS train. We're going to allow her to deploy. And I'll be working getting Nyman forwards. I'll be working getting Contreras forwards. And we'll see where we're at once we get to that final pit stop of ours. So I've currently decided that we're going to apply a kind of cheesy strategy here. We're going to go full attack now because Norris has pitted. He is kind of the biggest threat with the exception of Verstappen. And the idea here is incredibly simple. We're going to go full attack with what little we have left of these tires. And then we're going to run the next set of soft tires on light to kind of save them a little bit. And hopefully through doing that, we'll be able to kind of get a little bit of gap on the rest in. Norris, though, has come out in a really good window, honestly. If he can get Piastri here, he's kind of free to make his own fate, and he's going to get Piastri here, no problem. So that is a little bit concerning, and I think what we are going to have to do here is just pit Contreras on this lap. I don't see any other way around it. So we're not going to be able to really get any gap on Norris here. We are probably going to end up running with him, if anything. And for Nyman here, she can run one more lap, although I don't think that's really going to benefit her much. But it is something that she can do, and Contreras does come out behind Norris, kind of what we expected. And there's nothing really can do with that. And again, we're going to be running these tires light to kind of save as much, well, tire as we can towards the end of the race, where we are going to be trying to get some overtakes done, particularly with Contreras now running behind, well, a DRS train for that matter, Nyman in 15th. But as you can see here, Norris needs to pit. Everyone here is most likely going to need to pit, with the exception of maybe the medium runners. They're probably going to try and stay out. Magnus is probably going to try and stay out. So I think Nyman here is going to have a pretty easy time overtaking. And since we pitted early, even if we are running the tires on light, we should still have pretty decent lap times here. If we take Contreras as a, you know, as an example, she's running 14.2s even while being stuck behind other cars and probably losing a little bit of time. So we do have opportunities, but it's going to kind of require us to get the overtakes done in a rapid manner. Norris now has gotten by his quarry, and we're going to now hope that Contreras can do the same in kind of quick succession here, although we probably should recharge a little bit. Kind of same here with Nyman, honestly. Should probably recharge and slow things down and micromanage a little bit. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here in order to try and get our cars moving up as quickly as possible before we go into these final sets of pit stops. So both our drivers have done a good job here at getting through the traffic. A lot of cars have pitted, which make that a lot easier. We should assume Stroll is going to pit or kind of crash out his tires. So Contreras versus Norris is going to be the battle. I think we're going to struggle to catch Verstappen for the simple reason that even on light, our degradation with Contreras is higher than anticipated. That in its own right is a bit of a problem. Now we have actually caught up to Norris, so getting by him would be good. He's actually holding us up at this point. So we're going to try and get past. I don't think Nyman is going to be able to kind of catch up here. She's going to probably have a hard time to get that done. But we might need to use a little bit of tire here to kind of get a little bit more aggressive runs in to get overtakes done. And that in its own right is kind of worrisome, because degradation, as I said, is very, very high to the point where even running light isn't really helping our drivers much. So we do have a little bit of a concern with that. 10 laps to go here. Honestly, the only thing we really need to do is just take care of our tires and make sure that we have the tire for Contreras that she can actually attack over the course of these last few laps. And even that, I think, is going to be a little bit difficult. But there's nothing else we really can do here. We're just going to have to try and make the best out of it. So for now, Contreras is going to be kind of sitting back, trying to make an attack on Stroll, which is probably going to be this lap. I would assume he's going to be falling out of DRS range. And then we can try and maybe, if we're lucky, get some sort of attack going on the Red Bulls. But yeah, Contreras here having very, very bad acceleration, it feels like. Like the grip is kind of missing, which isn't that surprising. So we'll have to see it now. 2 seconds. I think we can close that down. The question again is just going to be, are we going to have a tire available to fight? And for Nyman, is she going to be able to fight Stroll as well? Currently, we're gaining about 1.3 seconds a lap, which puts us really, really easily into that battle, into a gap where we can battle. And it's kind of the same with Contreras. So for now, we're going to actually go ahead and recharge. I think we can get Verstappen. It's probably going to be kind of gotten here maybe on the straight, because he is running hard tires too that are losing all of their performance. So beating Verstappen here is going to be pretty big if we can keep that going. And if we can get Norris now too, that would actually be quite amazing. And as you can see, Nyman has caught up with Stroll. So we can now just ask it to deploy. And at this rate, if Nyman can get past Stroll pretty quickly, I think we're going to go aggressive here. There's few laps remaining. We can be a little bit more gambly. And we're going to do the same here for Contreras. Although, I think we'll do light for one more lap. 1 or 2 more laps and then just go full attack. But Nyman here does have a chance to potentially also chase down Verstappen. That one's going to be a little bit more difficult though. But we do have energy too that we can use. And for Contreras again, it's just saving tire. She did get by in kind of a good zone here now. So I think we're going to go ahead and turn it aggressive. We're going to deploy fuel. We're going to push fuel. We're going to deploy energy. And we're going to see if we can create a 1 second gap here now. Which is potentially also taking this risk a little bit too soon. But I think we might have actually made it happen there. that we got the gap before the DRS zone, and we did. So that is huge. We now kind of left Norris in the dust, and I think running aggressive is still going to be fine. The question now is just, can we get Nyman past Verstappen in time? And I don't think that's going to be too difficult. We have more tire to use with Nyman, and we also have full energy. So I would assume that we're going to just fly by here. Maybe not. Maybe on the straight then. Just turn it back to neutral so we don't use all of our energy. We still have a lap to kind of get it done on. We're not getting a flyby on the straight. We're going to go full attack. We are going to allow for deploy here, just to make sure that we stay close. And we'll see if Nyman can get Verstappen on this lap. Basically running inside of the car in front at this point. And we are getting to kind of the overtaking point, so we'll go ahead and push a little bit of fuel. Just need to double check that we aren't running Contreras fuel on push, because it would be quite tragic to run out. And are we making it? Just barely. We're still going to keep on deploying.
Lift off to avoid instability.
But I'd say that is a pretty good comeback, especially if taking into consideration where Nyman was after those spins and lockups. So 1-3, I'd say that is acceptable. We have Sargent here with quickest lap in the Williams. So all in all, a fairly good race here, I'd argue. Definitely acceptable from our perspective at least. So yeah, we'll take that with us. Nyman did lose 2 places from where she, qualified. But if you consider the the fact that she basically ended up last really early on, I'd say this is good. I'll be honest, the red flag did save us here. It did really save us. Did a lot better in this case of the red flag than in the other video, where it was a little bit concerning that I stayed on the hard. But I feel like we had more options here. So could just be me learning from my mistakes, which is probably more likely, or we, as I said, just happen at a more opportune moment. So Contreras extends her lead again. We're back up to 60 points. Back where we started, basically. Nyman in fourth still. We'll have to see if she can catch Lando. That's going to be a hard challenge. And we did close in a little bit here on Red Bull, but honestly, I think we're actually right back where we started. Because if I remember correctly, last race weekend, Red Bull gained 10 points on us. This week, we gained 10 points on them. So it's still fairly close, but it's going to be probably a fairly interesting end to this season, I'd wager. I'm going to have to end it here, though, because it is New Year's. There's a lot of things going on, and I need to get some stuff done. So thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you all had good New Year's celebrations, and I'll see you in the new year. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.